Good morning and welcome to Korea Today, live from Seoul.
Koreans celebrated the start of the new year by watching the sunrise, while the rest of the world rang in the new year from Europe, Africa to the Americas with spectacular fireworks, resolutions, and lots of wishes.
And North Korea also celebrated the new year. Its leader Kim Jong-un calls for improved inter-Korean relations. More coming up in headlines. And who was the best and worst minister last year? We'll show you what one paper printed coming up on In Print.
The first babies born on January 1st marked the beginning of the year of the Blue Horse. We tell you how Koreans name their newborns and the most popular names now.
And the year of the Blue Horse has returned for the first time in 60 years. Designs involving the animals of the Korean Zodiac cycle are popular to find. Find out what they mean in the new year. And Shea My Nikki takes you to Gangwon-do to enjoy the sunrise and a winter festival with ice fishing where you can eat your catch. If that sounds boring, then jump in the frigid waters to catch your fish on Thursday, January 2nd, 2014.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful New Year's Day yesterday or having a wonderful New Year's Day as we speak if you're joining us from other parts of the world.
That's right. It is Thursday, January 2nd, 2014, and the head of the Catholic Church and Times Person of the year 2013, Pope Francis, made his first New Year's blessing at St. Peter's Square, stressing strength, courage, and hope in the year 2014. Now, the Pope veered off his prepared text and vented a bit of frustration at the level of conflict in the world, saying that it is time to stop and urge people to accept each other.
It was a little more extravagant in Dubai. As you can see, some 500,000 fireworks decorated the skies and breaking the world record for the largest fireworks festival ever. And North Korea also celebrated the New Year with fireworks, and its leader Kim Jong-un made a New Year's speech. We'll have more on this and other stories we're following at this hour with Na Hyun-kyung.
Purging Chang Song-taek, the uncle of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was the right decision, says the young leader himself. This came during his New Year's address to the nation. As for inter-Korean relations, Kim says it is disheartening to see that the two Koreas being driven apart by foreign forces.
A favorable climate should be established to improve relations between the North and the South. It is time to put an end to such slander and finger-pointing that brings no good to either side.
With these remarks, some South Korean experts say Pyongyang might even propose inter-Korean talks in the near future, but others say the leader's comments are merely a tactic to boost the North Korean economy by seeking assistance from the South. Now, this is the second time Kim Jong-un has delivered a New Year's Day speech after assuming power in December 2011. And we are just over 24 hours into the new year, but Korea's main political parties are already gearing up for this year's provincial election slated for June 4th. The ruling Saenuri Party says it will strengthen the support base for the Park Geun-hye administration by winning the June elections, while the main opposition Democratic Party has vowed to reinforce its position as the leading opposition party by sweeping victory. But various poll numbers show that the DP will have a hard time winning seats if independent lawmaker An Chol-soo decides to form his own party for the June elections. A survey conducted by SBS shows 27% of the voters would vote for An's new party, whereas only 8% will vote for the DP. The Saenuri Party was in the lead with 34%. Another survey conducted by KBS also shows the same pattern. The ruling party leads with 41%, An's potential new party 30%, and the DP 13%. Last year was not so bad for Korea in terms of trade. Seoul's trade volume exceeded the $1 trillion mark for the third consecutive year in 2013, and Korea's trade ministry expects this year's exports to go up by more than 6%, nearing $600 billion. Researchers say mobile phones, automobiles, and chips will lead strong growth in overseas sales this year.
There is an increasing possibility of orders being placed for Korea's offshore platforms. If we see better than expected numbers in these orders, then exports will greatly improve.
For the year 2013, Korea saw a record high trade surplus of $44.2 billion, but trade officials are still seeing the weak Japanese yen as a threat. The Trade Ministry has projected this year's trade surplus to drop to $33.5 billion. A cadet should not be expelled for having sexual intercourse with his or her partner, says the Seoul High Court. The court says a person has a right to engage in sexual activities, adding that the Korea Military Academy, by excessively imposing a sex ban on its students, is violating the Constitution. The cadet who took this case to court was expelled in November 2011 when he had just one semester left before graduation. The academy expelled him for not telling school authorities that he had sex with his girlfriend on a weekend leave.
And good morning, everyone. Time for a look through your newspaper headlines. Several of our papers continue over from yesterday, placing on their front page articles from their New Year's special series. We'll go ahead and kick off today's imprint with a look at the front page of 중앙일보. Now, the front page image shows yesterday's sunrise as seen over the Seonyu-gyo Bridge in Seoul, where the mostly young crowd ushered in the new year, according to the caption there. Meanwhile, the headline just below it reads that young people should head over to venture companies and also to go abroad. It goes without being said. Youth unemployment, of course, continues to be a social concern. Korea's youth employment rate is 10 percentage points below the OECD average at 40.4%. And you'll recall a reoccurring hope we heard from young Koreans yesterday was finding a good job in 2014. Now, in this context, 중앙일보 urges new entries into the job market to think outside of the box. The article giving examples of their peers who found growth opportunities at small and medium-sized companies, as well as global companies like Nike in other countries such as Indonesia, calling South Korean youth some of the most competitive in the world. Now, next is 조선일보. Its front page image juxtaposes Koreans in the south and Koreans in the north. Ringing in 2014, on the left are folks in Daejeon snapping pictures of the sunrise, and on the right, Pyongyang residents soaking in a fireworks show. Meanwhile, the accompanying headline below it reads, "A unified Korea by 2030 could become a G7 power that surpasses the UK and France." That conclusion, it says, was a result of analysis with research institutes at Seoul National University and Korea University. The subheadlines say that if economic and social cooperation between the two Koreas began this year, the gross domestic product could grow to $35,700 per person by the year 2030, and by 2050 to more than $80,000, achieving the fourth most competitive ranking in the world. Scooting on over to Gyeongyang Shinmun now. Its headline brings us back to the railway issue, and the headline reads, "Core businesses of KTX Suseol line commissioned to Korail. Reason of stirring competition, a facade." Now, the subheadline says the paper obtained an internal report that showed core money-making businesses, such as those related to station services, onboard services, and maintenance, have been contracted to KTX. Leaving tasks like website management and human resources at the hands of the once controversial subsidiary company. Thus, the paper is concluding that the government argument that it needed to make the railway corporation more competitive by creating a subsidiary competitor was actually for naught. All right, next up is 동아일보. It has a critical headline on the Park Geun-hye administration's cabinet as it reads, ministers who fail to fulfill their duties calls for cabinet reshuffle, getting louder. And it also does list out the 5 underperforming ministers and the 5 who are doing well there. Topping each of the lists are respectively Strategy and Finance Minister Hyun Oh-seok under the underperforming list and Defense Minister Kim Kwan-jin on the doing well list there. This is based on a survey the Daily concluded along with its broadcasting arm, Channel A. And finally, let's wrap things up with a look at our business daily for today. Korea Economic Newspaper continuing its call from yesterday for more entrepreneurship this year. Today, its headline reads, Entrepreneurs Missing in Korean High School Textbooks. The article does a comparison of Korean textbooks and U.S. textbooks and found that while American textbooks had 13 business figures they featured, including oil magnate John Rockefeller, steel tycoon Andrew Carnegie, and Bill Gates of Microsoft fame, 2 of the 3 domestic publishers it studied had no mention of Korean business leaders, and the remaining one, CMAS, highlighted just one, that being Hyundai Group founder Chung Ju-young. The article adds that Korean entrepreneurs who built companies out of the ashes are receiving a cold reception in our textbooks, being painted more as greedy rather than as trailblazers. All right, with that, we'll wrap your look at what's in print on this Thursday. Markets were closed on the 1st yesterday, so we'll toss it back to you, Young and Minjung.
The markets will open for the first trading day in about 2 hours from now.
All right, now we'll head over to Idami, who's joining us with your weather forecast. So what is the second day of the new year going to have in store for us weather-wise? Tommy, good morning.
Good morning, everyone! Today, I'm reporting live from Yangcheongu, Seoul. Now, this morning, conditions are slightly colder than yesterday. Right now, the temperature is at negative 0.8 degrees Celsius. We are starting the day off with clear skies, but with just a little sign of yellow dust in the air this morning. Now, throughout the day, we will have clear conditions. However, over in the eastern border of the peninsula, there are dry advisories in effect. So if you are in those areas, then please be cautious when handling fires. Now, throughout this week, we will continue to see mild conditions, so that's some good news. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather around Korea. Here in Seoul, highs are at 4, Daejeon at 6, Gangneung at 8, Daegu and Gwangju at 9, Busan at 10, Jeju the warmest at 13 degrees. Tomorrow, we're looking at partly cloudy skies and some rain over in Gangwon-do. That's all I have for the weather. I'll be back in the latter half.
The global economy in 2014 is expected to see moderate growth at a subdued pace, and projections for Korea's economy from other countries has been relatively good. Many are optimistic that the Korean stock market will do well in the new year, as developed economies begin to recover and Korean companies see improved performances. Some analysis project the Kospi could set records for the first time in 3 years. Such positive outlooks for Korea's main bourse in 2014 can be seen in projections made by foreign financial institutes. But, despite these positive outlooks, there are still a number of obstacles that could present challenges to the Korean economy. First, whether the domestic market can be revived will be one of the most important factors. Also, inter-Korean relations, which are currently at a standstill, could also become a hurdle for South Korea's economic performance. And one of the most significant factors will be the U.S. economy. Depending on the Federal Reserve's quantitative easing taper strategy, the effects are expected to have a major impact on global markets. Will the Korean economy move on to a stable growth trend in 2014, or return to a prolonged state of low growth? Much of this will be contingent upon unforeseen risks and fluctuations in the global market. And there is much interest in whether the country can overcome this and further stimulate its growth.
So will Korea be able to stimulate its growth in the year 2014? For some answers, we have Professor Shin Sang-yup from Kyung University. Good morning, Professor. Happy New Year.
Well, same to you.
So we saw some positive reports about the rising in cost. The Goldman Sachs says it could reach the 2,350. Why such a rosy outlook for the Kospi?
Well, in fact, the global economy shows some recovery. Even though it's very slow, particularly U.S. economy seems to achieve a little bit higher economic growth than it was in the year 2013. And then, as you know, the Korean manufacturing sector has had some competitive advantages than the other competitors. So I think owing to the improved global economic situations, I think the Korea, which has the competitive advantages in manufacturing sector, could have more chances to achieve the higher economic growth rates. In fact, according to the government think tanks, the projected economic growth rate which Korea will have in the year 2014 was readjusted from the 2.8% up to 3.5%.
Right.
So I think this is I think I have a very the optimistic view about the Korean economy in the 2014. But there are several sectors, which will give some negative effect on the Korean economy in the 2014, such as the Abenomics, which because of the Abenomics, that there has been the depreciation of Japanese yen against Korean economy about 20% only in the year 2013, which means that the Korean exports will face more challenges in the global market.
Right.
And also, we have also some domestic factors, such as the high tension in the Korean peninsula, and then the uncomfortable the labor relations. We just finished the labor strike of the Korail. I think this will be one of the big challenges for the Korean economy in the 2014.
Right. So the Korean markets, although you did mention that the U.S. economy is picking up, but Korea was not really hit as bad as other emerging countries when concerns about U.S. tapering emerged last year. So what about this year? What will happen?
Well, very recently, USA government announced that there will be a change in their quantitative easing policy. According to the announcement, by the end of this year, last year actually, 2013, the USA government spent about $85 billion per month, which means that they provided the $85 billion to the financial market. But from the beginning of this year, 2014, there will be the reduction of the quantity of money, about the $10 billion, which means that in the global market, the $10 billion amount of money will be reduced.
Right.
So there will be a side effect on the other countries, particularly developing countries, including Korea. But I don't think that the effect, impact of the quantitative easing policy of the USA will not be very huge in the Korean economy. This is because that in a world, the Korean economic fundamentals became much stronger than before, such as, Korea has the 7th largest foreign reserves in the world, which means the Korean government can use this money to minimize the potential shock caused by some changes in global financial market. And secondly, still, as I said before, the Korean manufacturing sector has the competitive advantage in the global market. So considering all of these two factors, I think that the Korean economy will not have serious challenges because of the changes of the U.S. quantitative easing policy.
And you did also mention the Abenomics. What about Korea's exports? We had some pretty good year last year, but what are some of the major factors that will come into play in Korea's trade industry?
I think I will explain more about the effect of the Abenomics. The Abenomics means the economic policy taken by the Japanese Prime Minister Abe, and it has 3 main programs in it. One of them is the depreciation of Japanese yen. Well, on the short-term basis, depreciation of the currency means the improvement of the competitive advantage in the global market. In fact, last year, Japanese yen was depreciated by 20%, which means that the Japanese products became cheaper by 20% in the global market.
Of course.
And secondly, the Japan and Korea have the very similar economic structure. structure. We have so-called 10 the strategic industries, and unfortunately for Korea, Japan has the very similar sectors of industry as their key industries, which means that we cannot avoid the competition with the Japanese produced in global market. But as I mentioned before, if the depreciation of Japanese yen made the prices of Japanese products become cheaper than before, which means that Korea will have some difficulties in the global market.
Right, more competition.
And then along with but from the Abenomics, we have some positive effects indirectly, which means that according to the report released by the international economic organizations, well, if the Japanese GDP increased by 1%, it will result in the 0.08% increase of global GDP. If the Japanese GDP increased by 2%, it will result in the 0.17% the growth in the global GDP. So, considering Korean economic structure heavily relying on external trade, well, the increase of global GDP could be interpreted as one of the positive effects on the Korean economy.
Right.
But still, I think because of Abenomics, the Korean economy seems to have more negative effect in the year 2014.
So that's why officials are still seeing that as a threat.
Yes. And then along with besides the Japanese, the Abenomics, still, as I said before, the particularly political tension on the Korean Peninsula seems to be one of the very important, negative factors on the Korean economy in the 2014. In the global economy, particularly to draw the foreign direct investment, political stability seems to be the #1 factor.
Right, it should be stable.
Yes, it should be stable, but at the moment, we cannot deny that because of North Korean factor, tension on the Korean Peninsula. Still we are worried about some negative effect, on the Korean economy in the 2014. So this one is one of the most important things we have to, monitor continuously in the 2014.
But North Korean leader Kim Jong-un did say that his focus is on reviving the North Korean economy, and he did say he did call for an improved relations with South Korea as well. So we will have to wait and see how this unfolds. All right, thank you very much, Professor Shin Sang-yeon, for joining us and sharing your insight.
Well, thank you.
And it's 7:22 a.m. on the second day of the year of the horse, and horse-related designs are popular as we enter the new year. 12 animals of the Korean Zodiac system. We take a look at how the 12 creatures are used in these designs and just what they symbolize.
Many networks yesterday covered the stories of newborns who were born at the stroke of midnight, making them the first babies to be born in the year 2014. Now, the big question is what to name those babies.
That's right. Many Korean names share many things in common. Usually they're 3 syllables, including the given name and the surname. But what do these names exactly mean? For more on that, Arirang News' Song Ji-sun joins us. Good morning.
Good morning.
And tell us about your name. What does Song Ji-sun mean?
Well, my name, Ji-sun, for Ji, it means wisdom, and for Sun, it means to benefit other people. So I'm expected to benefit other people with my knowledge.
A big name to live up to.
And actually, Young, your name is a very good example of a popular name of an era. Now, you know that 2 letters of our first name is it could be very common because people choose same names or same letters for a particular time. And of course, when we take a look at our survey of the names in each era, that is very well reflected in each situation. Let's take a look at the survey of each decades for the names. Well, if you look at the 1960s, for example, we have a lot of guys' names starting with Young, like your name. So we see more than 3 names.
I see your
of
name, in fact,
know.
on number 6, right? Young Jin.
I wasn't born in the 60s, though.
And when we go into 1980s, we see a lot of names starting with Chun and ending with U or Ho, which is easier to pronounce for guys' name.
Let me see if my name is on this list.
Yeah, and now moving on to girls' name, we see a lot of Kyung, Young, and kind of Hyun that is actually harder to pronounce, and we rarely use those syllables these days, but that was popular in the 60s. And we move on to the 80s, we see a lot of names starting with Chi, like my name. That was very common in the 1980s and people born in these years.
Which means wisdom, right? Chi.
Right.
Jihe. So there's a lot of names that we've actually looked at here, and a lot of these names actually have an effect on how a personality becomes, and that's the common belief in that, right?
Exactly. People believe that the baby will live a life according to the names that were given. And before we tell you what were the most popular names of the year, there were these rules and factors to consider when giving a baby a name. And if you're wondering about what to name your future baby, these might help. Take a look.
If you thought Koreans had similar names, or that their names sounded the same, you may not be imagining things. Koreans name their children mostly based on the date, time, and year of birth, based on the Chinese zodiac, and as such, there are plenty of duplicate names. The traditional naming process involves 5 elements of water, fire, metal, earth, and wood, indicated at the moment of birth. Traditional namers then pick certain Chinese letters with positive meanings that can counter weaknesses among the 5 elements in the baby's fate. As a result, most people go for similar syllables that mean wisdom, beauty, bravery, and such. But the options were more limited in the past, when there were some conditions to coming up with a name.
It was mostly the grandfather's job to name a newborn baby, and it was customary for a sibling to share a same letter or a syllable according to family's tradition. Now, is this still the case, or is there a new trend in baby naming here in Korea?
We went to a postnatal care center to hear what young moms are thinking of naming their newborn babies. According to a survey by babycenter.com, 6 out of 10 Koreans still go to professional namers for their newborns. But some parents, mostly those who are younger, don't believe a baby's name affects its fate.
I don't necessarily think we should name the baby according to the time of birth, because if that was the case, all babies born at the same time would have the same fate. But that's clearly not true.
These types of parents are now bound to family commitments or Chinese letters, so they tend to seek out more unique names based on Korean words.
My first child was a daughter, so we did not have to go with the family's shared letter mandated to sons. So we named her Siam, meaning fountain in Korean. And our newborn daughter is named Ara, meaning sea, because I saw the sea in my dreams when I became pregnant.
Much like in the United Kingdom, where George, the royal baby's name, is gaining in popularity, many children are named after celebrities' kids or toddler stars from reality shows here in Korea. Some even name their children after their favorite celebs.
4 of my colleagues have named their babies with the same name, Shihu. Hu and Yul are very popular syllables these days, but I don't want to name my baby based on a popular trend because his name will be too common when he grows up.
Over the past 5 years, Minjun has been the most popular name for boys and Seoyeon for girls. Compared to the past, syllables that sound more unisex, like Chi or Seo, have been gaining in popularity among both boys and girls. A professional namer who has named over 15,000 newborns says there's a dominant trend that has been surging over the past decade.
More and more Koreans are going for names that are easier to pronounce. They try to avoid complex syllables that are difficult to express in English, like un and Some use their Christian name as their Korean name too, so they don't have to make an English name when going abroad.
And with the internet readily accessible 24 hours a day, the process of finding that perfect name is just one click away.
See, my name was on that list.
It's on the list of the most popular names. You cannot see, my full name is actually Young Jin, but you can't see my name anywhere on those lists.
It's a thing of the past now. My grandpa was actually right. He saw this coming, so he named me Minjung. I'm very proud of this now. But so a lot of grandpas name their grandkids, and some people actually go to an expert to get their names named.
Exactly. It's actually a family event, so grandfathers are very anticipating to name their kids, so they actually prepare the names or actually consult with a name expert. And of course, it does come in an expensive cost at between $50 to $500.
Wow.
And when you go to the consultation, the expert will give you an option of 3 to 4 names, and you can choose your favorite among those options.
I guess, what would you call this? Like the study of names, namology, I guess, maybe?
Sounds about right.
Well, they do actually get these experts' advice on the names of their children because they do believe, or there are some beliefs out there that your name has an effect on your future and your fate as well as destiny.
Exactly. People actually believe that baby will live life according to what their names mean. And of course, this is related with Korea's tradition. They believe a land or a place has its fate as well, like feng shui in Chinese. And of course, these may sound like it's not really scientific or proven, but they believe it will be more positive if they have a name that could complement their fate. And for example, if you have too much water in your name, according to your time of birth, they want to complement it by putting more letters that has meanings of like land or fire. So you could be more balanced and live a life that's more, that could complement that was not in your fate of the birth.
Okay.
So going back to your name, spread wisdom and benefit the rest of us, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, the one that spreads wisdom. And we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Right. And still ahead on Korea Today, we are going to head over to Gangwon-do and check out some winter activities that you can partake in. Shea Nikki, he has that for us. We'll be opening the doors to a trip to the scenic province, a breathtaking view of the New Year's sunrise on the East Coast, to a winter festival packed with sun and more. Shea Nikki has that for us coming up. Okay, so we've been talking about this since yesterday. This is the year of the blue horse, and the blue horse is one of 12 zodiac symbols or characters, the animals that represent the characteristics of that year. And the blue horse year, it comes every 60 years.
Can I say I'm already sick of hearing the blue horse?
And we had some very questionable horses in the studio yesterday, too.
It was a donkey.
Horses, right? It was a donkey and a unicorn.
No, I say it was a horse.
The idea is to model these products after the animal of the year, and so today we're going to look at some of those unique products. So take a look.
2014 is the year of the horse in Asia, and the new year has kicked off with the dynamic spirit of a horse. If there are 12 constellations in the West, then there are 12 zodiac animals in the East, which offer a look into a person's personality and fate. The rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig each represent a new year following a continued cycle.
The 12 zodiac animals were created and introduced into the Asian culture to indicate time and bearings. Today, these creatures are a complex symbol that stand for each year, month, 12 intervals of time, bearings, and also a person's fortune and luck.
As the zodiac animal changes annually, every new year, all kinds of various design items featuring these creatures become popular with many businesses, launching marketing tactics to target consumers, hoping for a prosperous new year. As this year marks the year of the horse, different kinds of horse design products are receiving a lot of attention from customers wanting to purchase New Year gifts. Especially, horse-designed baby goods are very popular as they make perfect presents for newborns this year and their parents. One ceramic and chinaware company introduced a special horse-themed calendar design this year. Actually, every year since 2002, the company has put out a unique animal-themed calendar design ranging from creative images to folk paintings, and have captivated the hearts of many customers.
As 2014 is the year of the horse, this plate features a horse design, which is the 7th animal of the 12 zodiac creatures. We came out with this design in hopes to wish for a vibrant year, just like the dynamic spirit of the horse. And while most calendars are thrown out after a year, the 12 zodiac-themed chinaware can be kept as souvenirs in the house.
What's special about this zodiac design Chinaware is, with its practicality and one-of-a-kind design, each and every one of them can be used or kept as a decoration in the house.
I think this will be a great decoration to place on top of our table. It will be an even more meaningful as this year marks the year of the horse.
I'm planning to collect all 12 Zodiac-themed plates since they'll be coming out with new ones every year.
With the continued popularity in 12 zodiac animal designs, recently, special t-shirts have been introduced for families.
나는 쥐띠, 나는 돼지띠,
엄마는 영띠, 우리 가족
예쁘다.
These t-shirts, signifying different years each member was born in, are full of character but also bring unity to the family.
I was born in the year of the rat, so I like wearing this t-shirt.
I think it's great that each of our family members can wear his or her own individualistic t-shirt with different zodiac signs.
Here, there are special 12 zodiac animal designs that are handmade. These pieces made from clay are eye-catching and also practical. They are, for none other than a clock. The 12 zodiac creatures can be divided up according to their active hours of the 12 intervals of time. And when these animal designs are molded and attached to each number, this one-of-a-kind clay clock is completed.
Clay handicraft uses soft, malleable clay to make diverse decorations and dolls. And this year, we came out with a special 12 zodiac animal clock design. 12 creatures were made with clay and attached to the clock frame to tell time and direction. And I think many children are naturally drawn to its cute and detailed design.
This is a great experience since people can actually make it with their hands and also teach their children about the 12 zodiac animals.
I'm excited to study with this adorable clock, and I think the chicken is the best because I was born in the year of the chicken.
Korea, with its traditional 12 zodiac animals and designs made with them, has opened up its doors to another new year.
2014년 만해에 새해 복 많이 받으세요.
Actually, making that clock sounds like a good project that you can do with your kids.
Exactly. You have those little clay things that they sell and just mold
I
it
always
out.
get
They seem
confused with the
simple.
order.
Right.
The order.
It's,
You're gonna have to check
it's
on
a
that.
tough one, yeah. All right, let's go back to our Dami who joins us from a table tennis club.
All right, we'll see if Dami actually tests out her table tennis skills
Picked up
over
a new
there.
hobby?
New Year's resolution, maybe.
Where is she?
So I'm back reporting live from a table tennis club located in Yangcheongu, Seoul. Now, right now, the room is vibrating with the sound, rhythmical sound of the ping pong ball going back and across the court. Now, with the new year, a lot of us have made resolutions to start exercising to stay healthy. So today, I'm going to introduce to you table tennis. Now, when it comes to table tennis, it uses up the muscles in your entire body. So you can get a great exercise in effect in a small amount of time. Now, table tennis is a very fast game as you have to keep track of the lightweight ball moving back and forth quickly across the table. And it also demands quick reactions as well. Now, because all you need is a ball and a paddle, if you come to a court like this, table tennis is a game that is loved by many people here in Korea. All right, so now it's my turn to learn how to play table tennis. 안녕하세요. 죄송해요. 네, 그러면요, 기본 동작부터 한번 배워볼게요. All right, so you have to kind of hold the paddle as if you're shaking someone's hand. And the basic stance is kind of bending your knees, and then you slightly lean your upper body forward. Then you bend your arm at 90 degrees and hold the racket in front of you. 네. Oh, and then when you hit the ball, then you have to try and make sure the paddle comes up to the height of your eyebrow. 네, 감사합니다. All right, so, I mean, hitting the gym is a great way to get some exercise for the new year, but why not go ahead and learn some table tennis as well, as it does use up the muscles in your entire body. Okay, so now it's time for me to put what I learned into action. That's all I have for now. I'm Idami, Korea Today. 네, 그러면 한번 시도해볼게요, 저도요. 네. Alright. 네, 안녕하세요.
Not half bad, Tommy. Well, good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off on the ice. Now, we're about a month away from the Sochi Winter Olympics, but just a few days away from the National Figure Skating Championships. And our figure queen, Kim Yeon-ah, had her practice session, check that, on Wednesday. Now, despite it being New Year's Day, there's no day off for Kim Yeon-ah, who's preparing for the Winter Games and the upcoming domestic competition. And even with the media coming out, everything seems to be well despite the worries of her previous injury. Now, Kim added that she's still working on her jumps and steps as she continues to work on her performance, leading to her grand finale before her retirement from the sport. And moving on, 2013 was a busy year for Ki Sung-young, who transferred from Swansea City to Sunderland and also got married. Well, he's also quite busy on the pitch as well, as he was ranked #1 in pass rate in the EPL. Now, according to ESPN's official Twitter, the 26-year-old completed 91.2% of his passes in the EPL, which is good for a #1 overall. But that's not all. In the 5 major European leagues, Ki is also ranked #2, just trailing Valenberami of Napoli in Italy's Serie A. And now moving on to some Wednesday's KBL action, the LG Sakers crushed the Dongbu Promi 82-69, with KT Sonic Boom sneaking past ET-Land Elephants 89-86. Meanwhile, it was the battle of the two Seoul teams as the Seoul Samsung Thunders took on the Seoul SK Knights. Of course, taking a look at the game here in the first quarter of the game, SK's Byung Gi-hoon leading the way with 8 points as SK takes an 18-11 lead before going into halftime with a comfortable 36-27 lead. By the third quarter of the game, the Thunders roaring back outscored the SK Knights 24-14, taking a slim 51-50 lead going into the fourth quarter. Now, Samsung's Jasper Johnson puts up 16 points in the fourth quarter, but everyone else struggles from the field as the SK Knights rally back in the fourth to take this game 74-71, your final score. And now finishing things off with yesterday's V-League action, the IBK Altos cruised past the Hunguk Insurance Life Pink Spiders 3-0 over on the women's side as they continue to dominate the league. Meanwhile, an epic match between the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers and the Korean Air Jumbo, so let's take a look at the highlights. Of course, going into the game here, just a back and forth roller coaster of a match between the two teams as Hyundai Capital takes the first set 25-20 before Korean Air answers back with a 25-23 second set win. Third set, another tight match here as Hyundai Capital squeezes in a 26-24 set win before Korean Air, you guessed it, answers back once again with a 15-16 fourth set win, forcing the decisive fifth set. But with Liberman Algamez putting up 28 attack points and Moon Sang-min back in the starting lineup, Hyundai Capital takes the fifth set 15-13 and a 3-2 victory. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
아주 멀리까지 가보고 싶어 그곳에서 누구를 만날 수가 있을지 아주 높이까지 오르고 싶어 얼마나 더 먼 곳을 바라볼 수 있을지 작은 물병 하나 번쩍 낀 카메라 때 묻은 지도 가방 안에 넣고서
Romantic and beautiful, especially with that music in the backdrop.
The season of winter festivals is finally here in Korea, and so you can't talk about winter festivals without talking about the eastern mountainous province of Gangwon-do, and that's exactly where Shay, my Nikki, checked out this time around. Good morning.
Yeah, well, I have no romance stories to tell you guys, but yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, but I do have some like cool winter activities that I participated in the Gangwon-do area. So, you know, and I think right now, even though it is very cold outside, it's best to get out, be active, and really enjoy yourselves during the winter. So, I have a really good report. Let's check it out.
The mountainous regions of Gangwon-do are brutally cold and snowy during the winter. This is where more than half of the country's ski resorts are located, and also where Pyeongchang, the host city of the 2018 Winter Olympics, is located. Every year, more than 10 winter festivals are held here, making Gangwon-do Korea's leading winter travel destination. 3 hours by car from Seoul will get you to the city of Donghae in Gangwon-do, but it's also not a bad idea to take the express bus. Chuan Beach is some 30 minutes away from the Donghae bus terminal. This small 150-meter long beach becomes even more crowded during the winter. This Chuan Beach is a famous spot for the sunrise, and I'm excited to see how awesome the sunrise is going to be. So let's go check it out. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. The sun should slowly start rising at around 7:30. A little bit more special, even though I see the sun every day. Just right now, right here is a lot better because, you know, it's the start of the new year and just feels good to watch the sun come up. I feel really happy about my coming year. And as any other year, the scenery at Chuan with its natural seaside sculptures is breathtaking. Another hour-and-a-half car ride takes me to the city of Pyeongchang. Because Pyeongchang is located at a high altitude of 700 meters above sea level, it gets especially cold and snowy in the winter. Out of the different winter festivals that happen around the region, many flock in to take part in the Pyeongchang Trout Festival. Trout, which are members of the salmon family, are extremely sensitive creatures that only live in clear, cold waters, and that's why Pyeongchang is Korea's largest trout farming region. You can purchase simple fishing gear at the entrance of the festival. All right, 감사합니다. Yes, I'm fully prepared right now. I've got my fishing poles, these other things, and I'm ready to catch some fish, some huge fish. Let's do this. Visitors are busy fishing on top of this massive frozen body of water. That's as big as 4 soccer fields combined. Let's go find the best spot and go catch some fish. It's definitely not an easy task to fish for trout in minus 10 degrees. Interestingly, a lot of people are lying face down on the icy surface. But why? Why are you doing this pose?
엎드려서 하면은 물고기에 지나간 게 보여서 그래서 쉽게 더 잘 잡을 수 있어요.
With this valuable know-how, I decided to give this unique fishing method a try. Bite my hook. Come on. Hold on, I think I got something. Oh, whoa, yeah. This took me so long. This fish took me a long time to catch. After ice fishing, there's one more special experience awaiting the visitors. It's none other than catching trout with your bare hands. What's even more interesting is the fact that participants must wear light summer clothes. Oh my God, that went so fast. And so it's extremely important to properly warm up before the competition. And the race begins. In the madness to catch the fish, you are bound to forget the freezing temperatures. And for 20 minutes, the chase continues. Yeah, woo! I'm freezing. I can't feel any part of my body, but I'm so excited. I can't feel a thing right now. Oh my God.
My feet are frozen. He's trying to get you to talk.
Now it's time to enjoy my trout while I get warm and comfortable. people can enjoy the fish they've caught right on site. And with just about $3 per trout, you can get your fish clean to eat raw or grilled.
구이 하나, 회 하나 해주세요. 감사합니다.
The trout grills to perfection inside this odd-looking container for about 20 minutes on top of a wood fire. The aroma of the grilled fish is making my mouth water.
Wow, I am famished right now, and all of this fish you see right here is fish that I caught today. So yeah, I'm very excited to eat it all.
And even without any sauce, the grilled trout itself tastes wonderful.
This is similar to salmon. It has natural salt to it, very tender, very savory, and as well as there's a little bit of garlic and a little bit of butter taste into it as well. This is absolutely delightful. Oh my gosh.
Up until 5 p.m., visitors can also enjoy various other activities, such as sledding and ice skating at the festival. Just like the strong and energetic trout underwater, I feel like I've gained a lot of positive energy while at the festival to start off a great new year.
(2014)
Happy New Year! We've made some friends.
Yeah, it's not a party there.
Get to the bottom of this. So apart from waiting for hours and hours and moving your rod up and down, what are some of the tips that you can give our viewers to catch the fish quickly?
Well, quickly, that's like, oh man, that's...
Okay, no tip for that. Okay, no answers.
But I was able to like talk with a lot of people, and everyone had like their own styles, but the more popular ones were like getting your face into the hole and like looking in to actually look at the fish.
Really?
Yeah, so you can kind of like snatch them, while they're coming by. There was also like two different types of fishing poles. One where you would just do the up and down motion, and the other one where it was better to like keep on the side and you have like a bobber and like wait for the fish to arrive. So, and that neither of them are very quick, but like you will catch fish there though.
Okay.
Okay, so it's almost a done deal.
Okay, that's helpful.
Patience is the virtue.
That's the most important
Something
thing.
that I should learn.
I mean, it's fishing. You can't hurry it, right? But
Exactly.
Okay, Pyeongchang is not the closest destination from Seoul, and it does take a while over there, and some people do have a hard time getting out there. How about transportation as well as parking once you do get there, though?
Parking there is like no problem. There are lots of people that will help you out with the parking. Transportation, there are shuttle services around that will take you from Seoul to there, and they start at 7 a.m. So, that's also good. You can start as early as you want to. It's also good for, parents to bring their kids, and really makes for a really family-friendly environment. So.
All right, this trout festival runs until February 2nd. And like he said, it's a bit of a travel, so they better have other attractions that people can check out.
Yeah, if you're bringing your family, you want them to have a lot of fun, right? So there are tons of things to do, and we got to do everything, but oh, wow, it was amazing. So, you spend your day fishing, and then you eat your fish. If you want to take it home, you can only take 2 home at a time, or 2 home while you're there. But you can enjoy tons of different things to eat and stuff. And as far as activities are concerned, there are ATV rides. You can go on ATVs. You can do skiing and sledding and stuff like that. So there's tons of things to do. So it's very enjoyable.
You're right. Pyeongchang is filled with resorts over there, so you can go back and forth from the resort to the festivals.
Yeah.
Although I must say, you looked a little barbaric because trying to catch that fish.
I don't know how that works.
Right.
Always confuses me.
Right.
Yeah, that was intense.
It's a man thing, Hyun-Young.
Okay, maybe it is. Maybe it's fine that women don't understand. All right, Shay, thank you for this.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Korea Today.
All right, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.